Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Miguel back again with a very interesting phone because the phone that I have today is the Oppo A78 4G edition. Now this phone is kind of like a budget upper mid-range phone. Not really upper mid-range, but it falls under a sort of a budget line because under 1,000 dirhams, this is probably one of the best phones that you can buy because the specs that this phone has are, I'm not going to say flagship, but they're pretty good for what you're getting in that price point. And when I was doing my research on the A78, I saw a lot of people in the comments on different posts, on different vlogs, that they were kind of comparing this to the Samsung A34. So what I'll try to do is kind of compare this with the A34 and tell you which one is better in what way. I should mention that the A34 is a more expensive phone by around 200 dirhams, so you have to keep that in mind. And yes, there are some things on the A34 that are better than this. But again, at the end of the day, it's about the price. If you are getting somewhat similar specs as the A34 with a little bit of a cheaper price, then I would consider going for the Oppo because they really have been trying. They have been very innovative in the past. And this is OnePlus's sister company, so you can expect some quality out of them. They are making some really good phones that if you are in the market for an Android phone, you should probably consider looking at Oppo. Now looking at the specs, we have 8 gigs of RAM with 256 gigs of internal storage. This does not come with any more RAM. That's the maximum that you can go with. And as far as the storage is concerned, you do have the option of a micro SD card, so you can add that. We also have the aqua green color with this phone. Let's go ahead and unbox it and see what we have. So we have some paperwork right up front, which includes some of the warranty information and a matte silicone case. And we have the phone over here, which I'll put on the side. Let's look at what else we have. So obviously we have the USB A to USB-C cable. This is a pretty long cable. We usually don't get such a long cable. I've seen this with OnePlus. So OnePlus usually gives you a pretty long cable. Same thing here. And we have a Super Volt charger. This is also a very similar charger to what we get with the OnePlus. We have a 67 watt charger, which should charge your phone from 0 to about 75% in just around 30 minutes. Now taking a look at the phone, we have some of the details that are mentioned over here. So as I mentioned, we have a 67 watt Super Volt charger. We have a full HD plus AMOLED display. So yes, we do have an AMOLED display. Normally around this price point, I've seen a lot of phones that usually come with IPS LCD displays. So I'm glad to see that we do have an AMOLED display. On top of that, it's also full HD. We have 8 gigs of RAM and 8 gigs extendable. So this can virtually extend 8 gigs of RAM whenever it's needed from the memory. And we have a dual stereo speaker. So let's go ahead and look at what this phone looks like. So this is a plastic phone made up from plastic back and plastic frames, but they've done a pretty good job because this feels really solid. The glass on front is actually Gorilla Glass 5, so you are getting some protection there. And talking about protection, this does come with IP54 splash resistant. It's raining and you take this phone out, nothing's gonna happen, but try and not to drop it. And that's where and that's where the Samsung actually comes in, because the Samsung is actually fully IP67 dust and water resistant, so you are going to get up to 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes. But again, look at the price point as well when you are considering these changes. If you look at the color is pretty attractive. It looks kind of like, if you turn it in different lighting, it sort of looks like it has a textured pattern, but it doesn't. And then we also have the camera module over here. We have a dual camera setup with a flash and a main 50 megapixel camera. The other camera, I believe it's a 2 megapixel macro camera, which we'll discuss in a little bit. And then we have the innovative AI camera. Looking at this design of the phone, this is a fully flat or a rectangular shaped phone. We have the clicky buttons here on the side, the volume rocker and the power button. We have a fingerprint sensor on the display instead of the button here. And on the bottom, we have one speaker over here. And yeah, so this, I believe this counts as 2 speakers, one over here, one over here. We also have a 3.5 millimeter audio jack, which I didn't expect on this phone. And we also have the USB-C port. If we talk about the display, this is an AMOLED display. This is a 6.43 inch display. This has up to 90 hertz of refresh rate. So again, that's one of the differences. If you compare this with Samsung that has a Super AMOLED display, which also has 120 hertz of support, this will go maximum to 90 hertz. So that's one place where you do want to consider either buying this or the Samsung. If you cannot live without a 120 Hz display, then you should go for that. But if 90 Hz is just okay with you, and then considering that this is around 200 dirhams cheaper, then I would encourage going for this one. The colors are pretty nice and pretty bright as well, so there is no complaint about that. This does come with around 400 to 500 nits of peak brightness, and the PPI is also around 409 PPI. It is a full HD display, so 1080p is the resolution that you get, very similar to what you get on the Samsung, but the Samsung will actually go up to 1000 nits of brightness. Again, that's another thing that you should consider before buying this phone. I also see that we have the punch hole camera on this side instead of the middle. That doesn't bother me, but a lot of people are bothered by that because it doesn't give you that symmetrical phone design. To me, I'm totally fine with it. Performance-wise, this has the Snapdragon 680 chip. And if we compare that to the A34 that comes with the MediaTek's 1080 chip, both are a 4nm chipset. They're pretty efficient, but there's a little bit of a difference when it comes to the performance and Antutu. That's something that you will have to judge for yourself. When we calculated it, this gave us around 309,000 points. And I did see the scores of the A34. I don't have it with me, but it usually comes around 400,000 points, sometimes a little bit more than that. So it's not really a big difference when it comes to performance. You can play games on this one without having any issues, but these phones are not really going to be performance and gaming oriented, so I wouldn't be worrying about that in the first place. And this does come with 8 gigs of RAM as a maximum. You can expand the memory, internal memory, with a micro SD card, and by default you will have the option of 128 and 256 gigs of internal storage. If we talk about the cameras, then we have a 50 megapixel camera on the back, and as I said, the camera is not really that good. It's already struggling here with this harsh lighting. It's kind of overexposing the image, which is kind of expected. Again, I'm not going to talk into a lot of detail. This is a 50 megapixel camera, and when we talk about the front camera, then this is a 5 megapixel camera, which is also okay, but it gives me that artificial beautify mode where it's kind of changing the image and kind of giving me that soft glow, which I don't like. But apart from that, this will shoot in 1080p both on the front and the back cameras. It does not have the option for 4K video, and this will shoot in 30 FPS at the maximum. So that's also an area that you should be considering. I believe the Samsung also comes with a 48 megapixel camera, but Samsung is kind of pioneer when it comes to cameras and sensors, so you may see a better result there. I haven't really tested it out myself, but I'm just assuming that the camera on the Samsung would be better than this one. But again, if you're buying this phone for the camera, this is not the purpose. This is a phone that you just want for everyday use, something that you can rely on. And I'll be honest with you guys, I myself am considering buying a secondary Android phone just to have it for my secondary SIM. And I am really considering buying the Oppo A78 for specifically that reason. Although I do have the option of a lot of different phones out there, but they're really doing a good job. And then considering the price point under $1,000, under 1,000 dirhams, this is not really a bad option. Now, if you talk about the battery, this has a standard 5,000 milliampere battery, and I've seen a lot of people complaining, mostly on the comments, that this phone does not have good battery life. But then on the other side, I've seen people talking about this phone having a great battery life. Now, I don't know what's going on. There may be some differences in the settings, the way that you're using your phone. The battery life is really not something that is same for everyone, because it really depends on how you use it. If you are a power user, obviously you're gonna use the battery more quickly. If your phone is lying there for 3 days, you're gonna see the phone there without any battery consumption even after 3 days. Similar case with this one. So this has been lying there, and we have been using this kind of on and off to kind of just review it and kind of look at it. There have been other people looking at it in the studio, so I'm not gonna say that this has been sitting idle, but it's been 3 days since we've had these phones. I believe this phone came in on Friday or Saturday. Today is Tuesday, and I just charged this right now because it was at 16% battery. So considering that, I would say that the battery is pretty good. Now, I really haven't done an endurance testing on this, but I've heard and I've read some feedback about people, and they're saying that the battery life is excellent. And that's what I've mostly heard about it, apart from just a few more people saying that the battery is not good on this one. But you do get a 67 watt charger out of the box. So this will charge from 0 to about 75-76% in 30 minutes, and then and 100 to 100% in around 40-45 minutes. So within less than an hour, this phone can go from 0 to 100%. Even right now, I had it at 16% charging, and I just left it on for about 15 minutes, and now I'm at 41%. So the battery, I would say, is pretty decent. I haven't seen any issues with this. If there was something drastically wrong with the battery, I would have, or someone would have noticed here. We haven't really had any sort of feedback like that. So talking about the pricing, you may see a little bit of a difference when it comes to there, but I'll give you guys a ballpark figure. Now, this will cost you between 800 and 900 dirhams depending on the specs that you go with. So if you buy the 256 option, obviously you're gonna have to spend a little bit more money. But even for 128, if you want to buy that and just expand the memory with a memory card, that's also a great option because you're still saving a little bit of money. So considering that, this is a pretty decent device for just 800 dirhams. And as I said, I myself am seriously considering buying this one because this pretty much ticks all the boxes that I'm looking for in everyday phone. It has a great display, it has great speakers, it has great battery life, it has I'm not really an avid user of a camera. Even with an iPhone, I don't really use my camera that much. So I can totally ignore that part, but it also has a 90 Hz display, which is good at this price point. Now, yes, I would have liked to see a 120, but I can live with that. That's not something that's going to be a requirement for me. I'm still using a 60 on my iPhone 12 Pro, so considering that, this is still better than that. Nevertheless, this was my opinion on the Oppo A78 4G. I do have another one coming up, which is the A58, and I'll be reviewing that as well. That's actually an even cheaper phone than this one. So stay tuned for that, and let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.